All right, time for us to check in with Jean-Francois Lisée, who is back in the saddle after a break for the summer. Jean-Francois, welcome back.
Well, you're already in the saddle, I see, so we'll be comfortable.
There you go. We've been here for a little while. Our feature, of course, is going to be you now every Wednesday afternoon, right? Just going forward, just so people are aware.
All right.
Right, okay. And it's brought to you, of course, by our good friends over at Guaranteed Industries, reminding you the pros at Guaranteed Industries take care of everything commercial, industrial, residential air conditioning. It doesn't matter. They have been doing it for more than 75 years, keeping Montrealers cool since 1957. 514-342-3400. That is Guaranteed Industries. Now, I thought we would start today with the Charles Milliard story. So Charles Milliard, who has decided he is thrown his name into the ring to run for the provincial Liberal leadership, has come out and suggested that whoever a federal politician would be, and he's suggesting a federal Liberal, I'm guessing he's talking about Pablo Rodriguez. He's the only person who has so far almost confirmed that he'll be running. But he thinks it would be a good idea for that person to actually declare his loyalty to Quebec. That question came up this morning, Jean-Francois, and here's what Tom Mulcair had to say about it.
Who the heck are you to ask for a loyalty test? Because somebody who is from Quebec and spent their years serving the public, including Quebec, from Ottawa, you're going to ask for a loyalty test? Who the heck do you think you are?
Okay. Jean-Francois, what's your take on this?
Well, it is. I when I saw that, I thought, what is the test? Is there an exam? Should they have to? Is it in the blood or the DNA, or what is the test? And it is a fact that when an elected official has worked in Ottawa and then moves to Quebec, there's a big adjustment to be made. Sometimes it's a rough adjustment. Jean Charest, who was, of course, the Conservative Party with Brian Mulroney and then shortly head of the Conservative Party, had at least 2 years of adjustment to be made until he became fully, attuned to Quebec, Quebec's way of seeing and advancing things, and he became a fully Quebec premier, as Jean Lesage did. When Jean Lesage came, Duplessis was still there for a while. He said, "Well, this guy is going to work for Ottawa all the time." And Lesage has become an emblematic Quebec premier. So I have no doubt that Denis Coderre or Pablo Rodriguez, after a while, they will see, and there is a change of perspective to be had when you were making pan-Canadian compromise in Ottawa, which was your job, and to have a Quebec-centered policy vision, which is your job in Quebec. I have no doubt that this will happen with both of them, including Pablo Rodriguez. But looking at the, is it savvy for Milliard to say that? I doubt it. Because the questions we ask now on CJAD, we have the same discussion on the French network. What does that mean? For an opponent of Pablo Rodriguez, if he becomes leader, which I think is probable, for the Parti Québécois, for example, it's for them to say, listen, this guy, does not understand Quebec. He has a Trudeau vision. He's not attuned with our way of thinking. Well, let's debate that. But for a Liberal candidate to bring that in the debate, I'm not sure she's going to gain a lot of traction even within the Liberal Party.
That's a really interesting take, actually. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I could certainly see that from the opposition. That'd be a logical place to start if it does end up being someone who is a federal Liberal. But for a provincial Liberal to actually call out, I agree with you. I think that's just bizarre.
I remember when Jean Charest came, he had to make the case. Everybody knew that he dreamed of becoming Prime Minister of Canada. And so this was a second choice. And he wrote a book called I Have Chosen Quebec, J'ai choisi Québec. And Mario Dumont, who was the leader of the ADQ at the time, said, well, that's interesting because I didn't choose Quebec. There was no choice for me. It was necessarily Quebec. So the fact that Charest had to choose Quebec means that there was another possible choice for him. Of course, Charest wrote that correctly, but coming from an opposition leader, an adversary, even from an adversary, it's delicate ground. But from within, not sure.
Okay. The next story, of course, concerns Pierre Fitzgibbon. Surprise announcement yesterday. Not that we didn't know it might be coming, but it was the suddenness of it, if you will. Deciding, you know what, and I think today, if I heard him correct, Jean-François, he talked about, you know what, just not that motivated anymore about his portfolios and thought it was the time to leave. He wanted to leave, we think, by the end of December. When he told our Premier, François Legault, that he wanted to leave, the Premier's answer was, no, if you want to leave, you leave now. So what do you make of this?
Well, my position is I'm a very intense Democrat. And I think that when you have close the deal with the citizens of your riding to be there for 4 years, you should stay for 4 years. And a lot of people listening to us now say, well, sometimes I go back at work and I'm not as motivated, but I slug on. So I'm telling you this guy, well, slug on. And my position is that if someone leaves during a mandate without good health reasons, he should pay for the by-election cost, which is $600,000. He should pay. This guy Fitzgibbon, which I was a fan of Fitzgibbon as a minister, but this guy has for his whole life signed contracts, business contracts, and he knew that he had to honor them or pay a penalty. Why is it that now we're in a democratic setting and there's no penalty for him stranding his voters for 2 years?
But I mean, you know, the idea of slogging on, you hate to think that your local politician or someone you elected considered it a slog. I will say, to his point, though, I thought he was being honest when he said that, right? He said, look, I've lost interest, or it's not motivating enough for me anymore. Did you not give him points for that, or do you think that's an excuse?
Well, I don't think it's an excuse. He said it was the most challenging job he has ever had in his life, as the most interesting one. And he advises other business people to come and see how enjoyable it is. And, if he doesn't want to have the workload of a minister, well, let him be an MNA. And since he said it's very important to bring out the new generation, well, let him be the parliamentary secretary of the next minister of the economy and train him. And so I'm really shocked by people leaving mid-mandate. And the other point is that he said, I wanted to leave in around Christmas time to be able to work on my humongous project bill on the energy future. And it's Mr. Legault who said, well, if you're going to leave now. If that's the true version, which I'm not sure, but if it's the true version, then it's Mr. Legault that made a terrible judgment lapse, because it would have been completely normalized that Mr. Fitzgibbon would have, he was the only one to have the ability and the credibility to further this file. And if it had been normalized that he would leave in Christmas, well, we would have accepted that, except me, but people would have accepted that. Mm-hmm. But now, there's no one who can lead this bill with any part of the credibility that Fitzgibbon had. And we know that there are headwinds on a number of items in the electric vehicle and battery file. He's the only one who has credibility to explain that it's not that dire. Anyone else will not be as credible as he is. So I think Legault should have said, okay, you'll stay until Christmas. And once Christmas arrives, you bring him to a nice lunch and say, could you stay until June? That's how you do it.
Okay. You think this was a clash of two big egos?
There's something we don't know, because, the CAQ has really lost the last 3 or 4 parliamentary sessions. Now, by having Fitzgibbon leave now, they're scrapping the start of this new session. That's not something they needed. So if there's something else, a real disagreement about energy policy, a real disagreement about tarification, a real disagreement with Michael Sabia, we just don't know. That would be more credible because the loss of credibility, economic credibility, and the liberals are so happy that they can say that you see, the only credible economic figure in this government is gone. So you have to go back to your default party for the economy, which is the Liberal Party.
Jean-François Lisée, appreciate it and good to have you back. Thanks so much.
Glad to be here.